Hello and welcome to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. I am your host, Jake Lurt, and on this show myself and my occasional co-host, Mark Hoffman, have gone through the entire Deep Blue Sea trilogy, scene by scene, ages ago at this point. We're now looking at Deep Blue Sea adjacent films. Those are films featuring sharks, or directed by Rennie Harlin, or involving some aquatic action, which is the case today, because today we're talking about a film in which a mythical sea lady has a relationship with a human lighthouse keeper. They have a child with magical powers who must come to terms with being from both the land and the sea. Well, that's right, we're talking about Aquaman again. Oh no, wait, sorry, it's Song of the Sea. What is Song of the Sea? Well, Song of the Sea is a 2014 film from Cartoon Saloon, animated film, our second animated film with the Sea Beast. Now we're doing Song of the Sea. This is directed by Tom Moore, who also wrote and produced it, and it's an Irish film. It's about a family and Selkies. It's Irish family. It's quite a lot to this story. We'll get into it, but it's like as a couple of kids, brother and sister, who turns out that the younger sister is potentially a Selkie and needs to come to terms with that. we'll get more into that. We need a guest to help me talk about this. Someone who is a big fan of both Cartoon Saloon and this film, Song of the Sea. So joining us for the first time is Tony Kogan from Cooks Reviews and the Wicker Man podcast. Tony, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thrilled to have you. Now, we didn't have you on when we originally covered Deep Blue Sea because at that time you'd never seen it. But I think inspired by me constantly going on about it all the time and doing a podcast about it, you have since gone out and seen Deep Blue Sea, so now we're obligated to talk about it.
Yeah.
Please tell us your thoughts on the masterpiece that is Deep Blue Sea.
So yeah, I mean, Deep Blue Sea is kind of the quintessential B movie. It knows what it is. It's exactly what you want it to be. I mean, there's no pretension about it, nothing about it. It's Deep Blue Sea. I mean, you want good shark attacks. You want Samuel L. Jackson being Samuel L. Jackson. It's the whole thing. It just feels like it's just what you want from a good old fashioned B movie. It's kind of something I view along the same lines as something like the Brendan Fraser Mummy films. In that
Same year, yeah.
It embraces what the classic tropes of those old fashioned monster movies, and has fun with it. I mean, it knows it's ridiculous. It knows it's silly, but it's clearly got a tongue in cheek and it likes playing around with it, and it's just a well made film. It's just a good bit of daft fun for me.
So you didn't watch it and immediately think, I must record 35 consecutive podcasts about this film. Didn't, because that wasn't the case. Okay.
No,
fine.
I mean, obviously I couldn't do that because I'll leave that to the experts.
Thank you. Yeah, so instead you decide I need to do a whole bunch of episodes about The Wicker Man.
Yeah.
The 70s classic, which honored to have been your first guest. I'm making something of a trend of being the first guest on a bunch of these shows, which I'm happy to do. Mainly for Movie Rob. It seems I've done 5. I've been his first guest 5 times now. But so why The Wicker Man?
Yeah, well, it's one of the ones where I've had it being a tradition every year on the 1st of May for a good few years now. I've watched The Wicker Man, and it's one where every time I watch it, noticing more details, more ways I can dig into it, and I felt it was one that's really worth rewarding experience, doing that deep dive, going into all the themes and ways and the music, everything that works well about The Wicker Man. And yeah, it's one that really works with having this deep dive to go into all the small details, all of the differences between the different cuts of the film. And it's one that I think is, and also, given that this year is the 50th anniversary of The Wicker Man, it felt right to do that deep dive at this time.
Yeah, I thought it is a very interesting film as well, and we talked about when I was on. There's a lot of unique elements in that film that you just don't see. I'm just obsessed by. There's a jar of foreskins. It's a weird thing. Like there's lots of weird things in The Wicker Man, but At the time of recording, only our episode has come out so far, but I am looking forward to listening to more, so hearing other people's thoughts on that unusual film. I think you have Mark on at some point.
Yeah, I've got Mark on in a few weeks at time of recording.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to hearing that. Great. Well, let's get into Song of the Sea, shall we? So yeah, it's a Cartoon Saloon film. If listeners aren't familiar with Cartoon Saloon, they also did. This was their second film after The Secret of Kells, and then after this, they did The Breadwinner and Wolfwalkers, and they have My Father's Dragon coming out. Did that come out?
Yeah, that came out on Netflix last year.
Dang it! I thought I'd seen all of their films. I haven't seen My Father's Dragon. Nuts. Okay. But I've seen the first four. That's okay. Well, so I've seen the first four, and I like them all. I don't love any of them. I feel like is maybe disappointing to hear. I'm sorry. I don't know what it is. These films don't. It's good company. I have the same opinion of like Studio Ghibli. I've yet to have been like really grabbed by a Studio Ghibli film, other than I think Totoro is one that I really dug, but I watched that like 10 years ago and haven't gone back to it. And I've seen a handful of others. So I don't know if it's just I'm too familiar with like the Disney and Pixar style of animation that like anything other than that, it takes a while for me to glow onto. I don't know. All of these films I've only seen the once, so that probably doesn't help. Whereas I continue to go back to Pixar all the time, like every week. As if I sat down and watched The Secret of Kills again, I might think, oh yeah, this is fantastic. So I reviewed it because it's on one of the lists I'm going through on my site, and I only gave it a 6 out of 10. And I said choose life, so I said don't bother watching it. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking sometimes. But what are your thoughts on Cartoon Saloon? What is it about them that you seem to gel with?
So yeah, I mean, I've been a massive fan of Cartoon Saloon since I first watched Song of the Sea when that came out. I've made it a point to try and watch all their films after that point in the cinema, which was a bit trickier with Wolfwalkers and My Father's Dragon. Even Wolfwalkers came out, during the midst of COVID, and My Father's Dragon didn't get a cinema release, but managed to do cinemas for both of those. So yeah, I managed to get in the brief period when the cinemas were open between lockdowns in the UK and those cinemas showing Wolfwalkers. And My Father's Dragon I saw at the 2022 London Film Festival.
Nice.
Yeah, but the whole thing with this studio, it's one where I just admire the artistry of each of their films. Like, it's one where you can look at the styles of each of their films and you can instantly tell it's a Cartoon Saloon film. Like, you can see the clear influence of Irish mythology and folklore within each of their films. I mean, some of the sea, but then like Secret of Kells, the whole basis of what is around the Book of Kells, and even like bits of history, like Wolfwalkers the villain of Wolfwalkers being Oliver Cromwell. Of Irish people, Oliver Cromwell's definitely a villain who you'd want to see mauled by wolves.
Absolutely, it is. I do enjoy that we're talking about this very Irish film. I mean, the film's not outrightly anti-English. It's an Irish film, so you can kind of feel like it should be on the day of the coronation. In fact, during the coronation, neither of us we don't care about that. We'd rather talk about anything else.
Yeah, and I mean you can also see like the Irish mythology and folklore in when they've done other works like outside of their original stories. Like most recently, at time of recording, they did one of the shorts for the most recent series of Star Wars Visions.
Yes.
Screech's Reach. And have you seen that one yet, Jay?
I did. I watched that. I watched two of them last night. I watched that one, and you can probably guess what other one I watched.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Because you and I, we also both really like Aardman.
Yeah.
So there is the Pirates film is Deep Blue Sea adjacent. So who knows? Maybe we'll talk about that sometime.
Yeah.
It's on the long list.
Yeah. I mean, granted, the Aardman shot in Star Wars Visions. I mean, granted, firstly, Mario for having it be 100% confirmed that Wallace and Gromit is Star Wars canon now.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it was a very slight story, the Aardman one. It's like basically a pod race.
Yeah.
Family getting to know each other. The Screech's Reach one was kind of terrifying.
Yeah, it's a proper horror shot. I mean, Matsufology, the actual screecher of the episode, it's clearly inspired by the Banshee
Yeah.
and all those Irish ghost stories.
Yeah, well, it fits in with all of their other films with like young protagonists fleeing authority, heading out into nature,
Yeah.
and yeah, mythology, but it's a lot scarier than anything they've done. It's that the actual screech as you talk about the banshee figure is. Oh yeah, it was a little. If it hadn't been animated, that would have been awful. It would have been like, yeah, this is a out and out horror film.
Yeah, and again, it's also one where it shows how they work well with playing around with their art style, the more like angular, dark, kind of like I don't know what to describe it. It's feels rougher than all the other designs of the characters in that short, but
Yeah,
works well in making it stand out as a threat.
that's something I do really appreciate about Cartoon Saloon is they don't stick to one art style throughout even the same film or same short. Because they have a distinct style as you talk about where it kind of looks like stained glass windows to a point where you have like a thick outline around some things and kind of a watercolor look to even the characters. They're all quite blocky and simplistic, but then you'll have this fuzziness to it. You'll have like mixed media being used. It's not just like with Disney everything looks like like blocky and colored and everything just looks consistent. With Cartoon Saloon with Song of the Sea, it's not. It all looks different. Like when you have the seal swimming underwater and it's like glowing white. It's like incandescent against everything else. It looks beautiful. I can't, like, that's the one my biggest positive with everything Cartoon Saloon is it looks stunning.
Yeah,
And I love the character design. I love how simple it is. I love that it's all hand drawn.
yeah,
I understand that hand drawn animation takes bloody ages, but it is worth it.
yeah. I mean, definitely. I
It's
mean, this instance, it was 5 years between Secret of Kells and Song of the Sea.
Yes, but it's appreciated. I mean, it's worth the effort. Yeah, it's like stop motion. Stop motion takes a ridiculous amount of time for what it is.
Yeah,
But it's that effort going into it. When Aardman do non-proper stop motion rated films, you get flushed away, and you
yeah.
get was Early Man actual stop motion or was that
I think
CGI?
Early Man was stop motion. I think the only other full CG feature film they did was Arthur Christmas. Even then, that is not Aardman style at all.
Yeah, I mean, I do
Feels
love
more.
Arthur Christmas.
I love Arthur Christmas, but in terms of the animation style, it feels more Sony than Aardman.
Yes, that's fair. Flushed Away is, I think, one of their worst efforts.
Yeah.
It's fine, but it's like, the slugs are too like minions. I know that the slugs came first. Oh God, do you think that's where the minions came from? The slugs from Flushed Away? Oh no, I dislike Flushed Away even more. Okay, let's get into let's get into Song of the Sea. So this is very much based in Irish folklore. There's a bunch of different folklore going on in here. It's predominantly Selkies, but there's like an owl. I haven't got any of the pronunciations of the the Irish terms here at all. I'm sorry. I tried to catch them
Yeah.
as I was watching the film,
Yeah,
but they say them
I
so
mean,
quickly.
yeah, I mean, any Irish listeners, we are going to butcher all the pronunciations.
We're very sorry. We can say Saoirse. We can pronounce Saoirse. Um, but, yeah. So there is. I'm gonna more do a vague description of what it is rather than try and say a name. So there's like you got the Selkies. There's the Owl Witch. There's the giant who like was turned to stone, turned into a cliff, basically. You've got the hair guy. I freaking love the hair guy. I'm looking forward to getting to getting to him in the story. There, whilst I didn't like love the film overall, I liked it well enough. But there were a few elements that I did absolutely love, and the hair guy is one of them. And the other one is of course the dog. Uh, love the dog. Pooh the dog is my favorite character in the whole film.
Yeah, one of the best cartoon dogs.
Absolutely. To his barking, I don't like it when animated films use real dog barking. It makes it more authentic. Like, it sets off my dogs when we're trying to watch it. They start barking at the screen, and it's irritating. Uh, yeah, it's very very authentic use of real dog barks, and it sounds like a dog that one of my dogs knows. So I think he just thought, oh, it's that one. It's here to play. No, no, no. Shush, 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 shush. Uh, so the film opens with a little bit of a backstory of there's a little boy, there's little Ben, with his little puppy, and his mum is pregnant, and they're like singing a song to go to bed. But then it's quite clear that his mum has died, like giving birth to his new sister. Very sad. This is a very sad story, is what we should say. It feels like a kind of animated family film. Told from his perspective. Very sad film. I feel like if it was told from like the dad's perspective, this would be harrowing. So it's very good use of like an Amblin-esque, an E.T. kind of thing of like tell it about the kid. It's great. It's fun. But yeah, very very sad. Sorry, where the mum disappears, gives birth to the daughter, and 6 years later, on her sixth birthday, she finds this old coat. What's this? She's like drawn to this coat, goes swimming, and it turns out that she can turn into a seal. She's a selkie. Well, hey, beautiful sequence. Love the seals. So we have the character of a dad who's played by Brendan Gleeson, who's in. Is he in? He's not in The Breadwinner, but is he in all the other ones?
Yeah, he was in The Secret of Kells.
Yes.
This one, but he's not in any of the other ones.
Okay. Where did I think he was in Wolfwalkers? Who's in Wolfwalkers?
I think you're thinking of Sean Bean in Wolfwalkers.
I am thinking of Sean Bean in Wolfwalkers. They are basically the same person. That's not true, but yes, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Love Brendan Gleeson in anything he does. I just appreciate his kids as well. If anyone listening hasn't, Tony, have you watched Bad Sisters on Apple?
Not yet.
Strong recommendation for Bad Sisters.
Yeah, I definitely want to watch it because it's Sharon Horgan who did that, right?
It is, yes. She like created it and is the lead in it. And Brendan Gleeson's other son, so not Donald, the other one, it's the other Gleeson, Ryan Gleeson. He's in it and he's great. So the main premise of Bad Sisters is there's a bunch of sisters who want to kill their other sister's husband. They will call him the prick for many reasons. This guy is played by Claes Bang. He's horrendous. It's incredible performance, but we had to stop watching it because my wife was like, I can't watch this guy be a prick anymore.
I mean, if there's anyone who can play a great prick, it's Claes Bang.
He does it phenomenally well. I'm not sure I'll be able to see if he ever plays like a good guy. I don't think I'll ever be able to like see him because the things this guy does.
Yeah.
But Brian Gleeson they like he does die at some point. It's kind of told in two timelines, and in the present timeline, Brian Gleeson is like the insurance investigator looking into the case, who's got his own problems, and he's also a prick in different ways for different reasons, and is also fun. So strong recommendation for Bad Sisters on Apple. It's a remake of a European show called Clan, which I haven't seen. Anyway, talking about European shows, Song of the Sea. Apologies. So Brendan Gleeson's grandmother. So Brendan Gleeson plays Connor. His mother, even Franny, played by Fiona Flanagan. She wants to come and take the kids away because there's no place to raise children on a lighthouse. So she takes them to the city, leaves the dog behind, chained up in the rain. Makes me sad. And they get to the city, and the daughter, who I should say cannot speak. Saoirse is mute. She has never spoken. She's 6 years old, never spoken. She is ill, and they kind of learn that she needs to go back to the sea. So Saoirse and Ben escape and head back and go through many adventures, meeting many mythical creatures along the way to get back to the sea. Because she needs her coat. That's the one. So what are your like favorite bits of the film? I mentioned the hairy guy. Did you have any like?
Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of episodic.
Pronounced it right. That's the Great Sinaka.
Sure.
I've probably butchered that.
Yeah, I loved him a great deal because he's weird. Like his this is a point where the kids get separated and Ben's trying to find his way back, and he's in this underground cavern, and he finds this guy who looks like wasn't it kind of with more limbs and each and with much longer hair in like a Tangled-esque, like puns with Tangled, where each hair apparently is a story. But I don't know. He's like popping up all over the place and wrapping things up in hair, and he's just a weird guy. And I really liked that whole sequence.
Yeah.
It was like fast, and a lot of the rest of the film has been kind of at a moderate pace. But he's like popping up here and there and everywhere.
Yeah, it's a good bit of different, unique energy that he brings to this section of the film.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I liked him, and each of the mythical beings is a mirror of an actual character in Ben and Saoirse's life. So the hairy guy is the ferryman. Grandmother is the owl witch. The cliff.
Maka.
The Maka, yes. The big cliff guy is their dad. That sort of thing. There's these weird little fairy creatures as well who get turned to stone by owls that can operate jars, which fine. I like them, so they have no brand about.
Yeah. Yeah, and the big song that they're singing celebrating Saoirse comes to him is about seaweed.
Yeah, I mean, why not? She's a sea creature. They're fairies. They're going to sing about seaweed. Why not?
Yeah.
This, I mean, just like The Wicker Man, this is like half a musical as well. There's a lot of singing in this film. A lot of Irish songs, which, just given their nature, they're beautiful songs. Don't get me wrong, but they're very like lullaby. Like,
Yeah.
I watched this film on an evening where I've been had a hard day at work that day. It's been a busy day. I don't get a lot of sleep, so I did drift off when I watched this film. Like, because they are just like very soothing, sing you to sleep kind of film. So I did actually have to watch this again the next day.
Yeah.
Because I did miss like half an hour towards the end. No fault of the film, other than by putting lullabies in it.
It also gives a vibe of being like a folk story and a fairy tale for children.
Yeah, I did. With the parallels between like the real characters and the folklore characters, they got like a Wizard of Oz kind of vibe. Like, is this all going to have been a dream? Is this all real? Is this like a story that they're telling? But it does feel like it's all real. Where like every element where the things really did happen, but then you get to the end of the film, given like the characters who stay, the characters that leave, it also might not have happened. It could also just be a story. What do you think on that? Do you think it all happened, or
Yeah, I think who thinks that it did all happen, but I can kind of see that as they use it as kind of a way for them to like overcome their well, generally I feel it's a film about grief and responses to loss, and then we see that the film goes on as them using it as a kind of coping mechanism for their grief, especially like with the characters Maka and McClare, and again and having those characters be voiced by Brendan Gleeson and Fionnuala Flanagan, as well as them voicing Connor and Granny. And it's one we can see how it all lines up to have that be that metaphor for grief.
yeah, it's probably not like she went swimming, caught a cold, and just needs to put a coat on. And so the Ben's just trying to get her back home so she can put on a coat so she can stop being cold. Here's like a very simplistic parallel I was drawing.
Well, even then, you can also kind of view it as Saoirse not speaking until she gets back to that coat, which was the memento from her mum, as it being like kind of how Connor blocking those sides of his life out in his grief has ended up causing that harm to Saoirse, and it's only by properly embracing that and coming to terms with his grief, that he's able to properly move on and help Saoirse the way that she needs to be helped.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fair. Like we said, very sad film, very
Yeah.
like emotional film that looks like it's for kids but might not be fully for kids,
Yeah.
I guess, or not as young as the kids. Like, how old's Ben supposed to be? He's like 10, I think.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I feel like if a 10 and a 6-year-old watch this, they might not pick up on all of these elements. I don't know. I don't know how smart 10 and 6-year-olds are. I don't tend to hang out with them. So, um, oh, my nephew's gonna be 6 in a few months. Yeah, he's not ready for this film. Um, absolutely not. See, my go-to with when we're talking about films on here is to go through like the deaths that happen. Aren't they fun? Aren't they exciting? This is a different kind of film that we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm
Yeah,
not
we,
as
yeah,
geared up for talking about.
we don't really get one actual real death, and or you better count like the character being turned to stone as a death. Even then, it's that instance, it's more about the reaction to it, and like Brendan Gleeson's Connor basically wallows in grief, spending a lot of his time in the pub drinking Guinness,
Well,
just to kind of drown out his grief.
yeah, I don't know how often he goes because it feels like he goes to mourn the passing of his wife because I'd never really thought about when somebody like passes away in childbirth, but the child survives. The anniversary of the death is also the birthday of the child. I'd never really considered that would be the case, and that's something this film deals with. So Granny has come to not just celebrate the Saoirse's birthday, but also to look after the children, whilst her son goes and mourns his wife in the pub for an evening.
Yeah.
So I don't know how often he goes, but that's just something I've never seen covered in a film before, and that I'm sure it has been. I just haven't seen it, but that's just it got me thinking.
Yeah. It also kind of works well with Gleeson's voice especially with the prologue and stuff like when you see it in the present time, is in the prologue his voice is like this kind of like higher register, but more upbeat, optimistic, but it's a lower tone of voice when it's the main plot of the film. Like it's kind of showing how he's more like just in terms of the tone of his voice, how like downbeat and just kind of wallowing in his grief he's become.
I mean, there's nothing he can't do. I think he's an actor I'll watch in anything or just listen to in anything. I love his voice. I think he can do anything. But yeah, he does handle the grief very well. I'm quite used to these days him being quite comedic
Yeah.
from the likes of Banshees of Inisherin. I mean, darkly comedic, but
Yeah.
like the in Bruges of it all. Not a lot of that in this film. He doesn't get a lot of levity.
No.
Well, I mean, at the end, there's some like and there are times when he's like playing with the kids, or he's kind of off in his own. When Ben comes to complain that she's like that Saoirse went swimming and he told her not to go swimming, he just like starts playing with her. He's been off in his own grief again, which that's how he's dealing with it. He's trying to hide that from the kids.
Yeah.
Which he does that very well. Yeah. So he's excellent, and I thought that Fiona Flanagan as Granny and Macca, she also did a good job with voicing. I'm not very familiar with her at all. I'm not sure what else she's even been in, to be honest, but I'm sure she's been in plenty of stuff. She has. She's been in plenty of stuff, but not a lot that I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, she has that right kind of voice for. I think I remember she did a guest appearance in the American Gods TV series a few years ago, and I can't remember who said it, but I think I read a review where it's like her voice having the right kind to represent the folklore and age of Ireland's past, and it does work in that way here as well, particularly as Maka, representing this kind of folklore character and someone who you can see in their mind they genuinely think they're doing a good thing, that they're helping people on the fae folk overcome their grief and their pain, and he's got kind of blinded herself through kind of help the way she's been blocking off her own grief through like storing up her own emotions, and how she led to her thinking that she's doing the right thing for everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, she's trying to protect as she said, she knows what's best. What she thinks she knows what's best. She's just trying to. She thinks the kids shouldn't be growing up in a lighthouse. She has an idea of where they should be growing up. She thinks that's the site of their grief. Maybe she knows that the mother went to the sea, and she's trying to protect that from the other. She has best interests at heart, definitely.
Yeah.
But growing up in a lighthouse sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
To me.
Well, depends on the lighthouse.
Yes, this is true. If it is the lighthouse from the lighthouse, then no, thank you. As we talked about earlier this year, as a living out. No, thank you. But this one with the dog and it's the nature, it's all lovely, and all the seals. That sounds pretty cool to me. But there's also a lot you could. I think the film could be interpreted as saying a lot of things about mental health as well, where a lot of the characters have issues or things to overcome or to deal with mental health, like, including Granny. When she gets worked up, she says she needs to go and take her medicine to calm herself down. Various other characters have similar other aspects to deal with.
You definitely see like Connor having depression.
Yeah, and Saoirse not being able to speak, and it's just an excitable child. He hasn't got anything yet, but who knows? And like there's also the only areas in the film you can kind of see religious elements are in the city, in like Granny's house. There's crucifixes and things around the house, which you don't see a lot of in the lighthouse and in the countryside. There's the Holy Well in the city as well, which is the point at which the kids kind of get separated and bad things start to happen. You can draw from that what you will, I guess.
I mean, you can definitely see that more in Wolfwalkers. It's a kind of different thing with how cartoons sort of say religion throughout their films. Like Secret of Kells, the main characters are monks writing their version of the Bible, but then in Wolfwalkers, the villain's Oliver Cromwell and like his like Protestant religious ideology.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd like that it's not that heavy-handed.
Yeah.
That's not the moral of the story, but it's there to be picked up on if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also quite like that there's no real out and out bad guy. Yeah. I mean, yes, you got the Owl Witch, but she's overcome about 2/3 of the way through the film, and then there's just a third of the film left of like we haven't solved everything yet. It's not a bad guy. That's not the problem. We have other things to do. Quick, become magical, run.
Yeah, and again, we've presented Mac as being more the antagonist figure throughout the film, but when you actually meet her properly, and it's that she does feel like she's doing the right thing. She feels like she's got everyone's best intentions at heart, and when she experiences all the emotions that she's literally bottled away for so long, she immediately turns around and helps them.
Yes, that's a lot of emotions all in one go. Jars and jars and jars of them. I'd like when they're captured, they are weather.
Yeah.
I think that goes back to the mythology in some ways. So the moral of the story is not. It is like, don't bottle your emotions up. Experience things. Live life. Just don't bottle it away. It doesn't do any harm. It's the same moral as the Adam Sandler film Anger Management. I think it's the only parallel between the two. I also quite liked that. I'm known for not liking kids in films. These kids, especially Ben, is very irritating.
Yeah.
But he's supposed to be. I get it. But also, as like a brother and sister, they're not constantly bickering. They are often at odds with each other, especially Ben. Like, you get the feeling that he constantly resents Saoirse for taking his mother away. Essentially, like he took the mother and left her instead, and he would have tried to keep the mother potentially. And but I like that they're not always bickering. There are times when they're working together. Sometimes they're just having fun. when he gets stung with the stinging nettles, who's carrying her through them, she goes and gets stock leaves, and then they're kind of having a little laugh and joke about that. So I like that little sibling dynamic between them. It was believable.
Yeah, I feel like with Ben's character, he does come across a bit of a brat at the start of the film.
Yeah.
Especially with how he treats Saoirse, like pushing her head in the cake. But it's one where you can kind of understand what he's feeling. Like he's never truly come to terms with the death of his mum, and you feel like he's blaming Saoirse for it, as he's saying that he has that resentment towards her, and it helps make him more of a believable character and not just someone who feels like they're a brat for the sake of being a brat.
Yeah, and saying he never got over the death of his mum, it would have been he would have been 4 when that happened, or 4 or 5, and immediately he also gets this new sister and a dad who is in a lot of grief. And so between them, they have this baby to raise, and I'm sure that Granny came and helped with that. But there's a lot of things, a lot of changes going on to deal with, and you can understand that maybe none of them were dealt with at that point. So it's completely believable that he wouldn't have gotten over the passing of his mother, and she left him this really cool seashell ocarina, which is beautiful. And yeah, she left that. The mother left that to him. He's not going to share that. That's the last thing he got, and Saoirse keeps taking it. But then she hasn't got anything. So she's got this coat that's been taken away.
Yeah, Brent Connor locked it away.
Yeah. So you can understand why she wants to have some connection to this lady that she never got to meet. He at least got 4 years with her. It's the Onward thing. Yeah. The Onward scenario of like, he never had a dad, but he had a brother. Kind of thing. A lot of dead parents in the films. It's been said before, but this is just still keeping up with the trend of, hey, let's kill a parent. Probably the mum.
Yeah.
And I like the design of the world is nice. Like there's pylons shaped like owls, because owls are evil in this film.
Yeah. And also there's a good contrast as well between like the brighter areas of the countryside and the lighthouse. Then when we get into the city, I'm pretty sure it's meant to be Dublin. I don't think they confirm it, but like we see the statue of Molly Malone, so I'm pretty sure it's meant to be Dublin. And it's more like browns and greys in that area to give it that contrast between the different environments.
A lot more straight lines as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas the lighthouse is just like, you don't see a lot of shots of the lighthouse up close. You saw more of like spiral staircases inside and curves of the cliffs and things. It's all curves.
And then in the sea, it's all like circles here. We've got the seals, the jellyfish, that's one little bit I love. I love the designs of the jellyfish when we see Saoirse in the water for the first time.
I just love the seals.
Yeah.
Just blobs. Basically, just like ovals.
Ovals with eyes, yeah. It's kind of helps with the thing I always love about like stuff like seals, sea lions as kind of creatures and animals. They're incredibly graceful and beautiful in water. On land, they're these big lumbering messes.
Yeah, it's not what they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
I can relate. But I'm like that in the water as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seals. I mean, whenever we go to Scotland, we will occasionally see a seal. I've never seen one up close. They never come up to the shore. That's what I want. That's the problem with going for a walk with dogs on a beach. They scare the seals away. One day. Yeah, I love seals. Is there any other aspects of the film that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, one thing that I really want to talk about is the actual animation when we get to the Song of the Sea at the end of the film, and she sings a song and like awakens the spirits of all like the fae folk that have been trapped in stone by Macha and all going away to Tir na Nog. I mean, that piece of animation, it's one of the most beautiful pieces of animation I think I've ever seen on film, and no matter what, every single time I watch this film, I get teary when I see it, because it's just how beautiful that animation is, in combination with like the music from Bruno Coulet and Keela and the sync vocal performance as well. It's just a beautiful bit of filmmaking.
It absolutely is. I mean, I didn't highlight the ending that much. I just think the whole film is beautiful, beautifully animated. But yeah, that when she is singing, everyone gets released, and everyone just kind of heads off into the horizon essentially.
Yeah.
It is a wonderful sequence. You're right.
Yeah, and there's also a bit of a melancholy feel to it as well. Like you can feel like it's the end of this kind of age of mythology and folklore and they're going off to Tirnanog and they're not going to return. It's kind of this bittersweet feeling to it. It's what I could kind of imagine like in a Guillermo del Toro film.
Yeah, I can see this is I mean a lot. See, that's not right. The poster is a lot happier than I just got a picture of the poster at the moment. Very very happy poster.
Yeah.
It's misleading. Uh, yeah, I can see Del Toro, who we may cover at some point when if we do the Shape of Water, sea creature film. I can see this is quite Del Toro-ish. Pacific Rim is quite deep sea-ish as well. That's in the water a lot. I'm gonna add that to the list. It's ever-growing list, never-ending list. Someone said to me recently, surely you must be running out of deep sea adjacent films. It's like, no, we're ridiculous. Of course not. Anything can be. We covered Shotgun Wedding. We can do anything.
Anything can be a deep blue sea film if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, you just gotta try. You just gotta think about it. We've done National Treasure Book of Secrets.
Yeah.
That's not Deep Blue Sea adjacent at all. We've done Ravenous. Because we talk about people eating people in Deep Blue Sea. That's all we need. The Descent has no water in it. It's all blood. Yes, I guess if Del Toro did this, it would be. I haven't seen his Pinocchio yet because I hear that it's traumatizing, and I've not been in the right mindset to watch that recently.
Yeah, I mean that's the one that's like focused on like the interplay of life and death and grief and Pinocchio being executed at the odds of Mussolini.
Yeah, Pinocchio is not a fun story.
Yeah.
Don't believe the Disney version. It's not. No, don't believe the Disney version of anything.
Yeah.
That's why I have my fingers crossed that the Little Mermaid is going to be actually the non-Disney version. But that's not going to happen.
No. I mean, I think
every step's not going to be pain. Not going to happen. But who knows? Maybe we'll talk about the Rob Marshall doing this one. Maybe we won't. Who knows? We'll see. Yeah. He doesn't inspire confidence in me anymore. But we'll see. Great. Okay. So I didn't have that many notes on Song of the Sea, I'm afraid. So we have gone through all of my notes. I just have more things like the dog. I love the dog. The dog's back. Hooray, the dog. It's all of my notes.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's a very good dog, and it's just like the design as well. Like, just I don't know what it is about sheepdogs, but they just work really well in 2D animation.
It's because they're adorable.
Yeah.
Basically.
And then we get a puppy coo at the start of the film.
Hell yes, we get puppy coo. I'm here for puppy coo. My bigger dog is a Labradoodle. For everyone, because of his colouring, everyone thinks he's a sheepdog. So I have a lot of affection for this guy who's just this big fluffy lump.
Yeah.
Just bounds around. When he gets tied up, he breaks 3 of his chains, runs down to the ferry to see like Ben and Saoirse being taken away. And Ben's like, "No, don't jump in the water, you'll drown." And the ferry disappears. But then he just jumps in the water and just swims along with seals, and I loved it. This dog just swimming along after a boat with a pack of seals. I mean, when he gets like magical powers, so he's like flanked by these 2 spectral wolves. He looks so happy.
Yeah.
He's just happy.
Yeah. He's just. Again, it's something that just this kind of a dog just works so well in 2D animation to make it just like lively, bouncy, and
I think it's the fringe.
yeah.
I think there's a animated character stereotype of a big guy you can't see its eyes. Think of like the dad from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And a bunch of others.
Or like Luca.
Exactly, yes. But the Cloudy with the Townspeople's guy, I like just because that one time when the eyebrows raise up really slowly. I like that film a great deal. Uh, and yeah, so Ku is the same where it doesn't have that until he's running, and then the fringe keeps flopping up, and you can see the eyes and see how happy he is. Yes, easily my favorite character we've maybe talked about this year so far is
Yeah.
the dog in Song of the Sea. I'm gonna be difficult to not make all four images from the social media post all be of Ku.
Yeah.
I will try to not let that happen. At least one of them will be, but who knows?
Yeah, of course one of them has to be.
Yes,
And
maybe.
it'll have to be one of who like properly smiling as well.
Yes, probably. Yeah. I just have all four of Ku's emotions in there something.
Yeah.
And quick note about the end credits. I love when animated films show you animated process in the closing credits. You just see lots of early designs and animatics and stills, and I'd love seeing that process. I kind of wish I'd gone into animation. I feel like I've missed that boat at this point.
And yeah, also like one thing that's like really good about like, the cartoon stuff as well is like a few years ago I bought the box set they put out of the Irish folklore trilogy, which is Secrets of Kells, Song of the Sea, and Wolfwalkers. And they've got these like little art books in there, like postcards of it. I mean, the first image in the booklet is Puppy Ku, is of Ku.
As well it should be.
Yeah.
That's perfect for me. So, where would you rank this? If you were to rank the 5 Cartoon Saloon films, where does this sit? Which is your favourite?
I think for me, my favourite, it's a toss up for me between Wolfwalkers and The Breadwinner. Like, there's different type tones that feels to it, but in terms of like the artistry and storytelling of cartoon saloon films, I think those two are the peak for me. It's one where I think because I've watched it more recently, I'd probably put Wolfwalkers on top. But I can easily see if I watch The Breadwinner again, I can put that one on top. And then I'd probably put Song of the Sea perhaps probably third after those two, and then Secrets of Kells, then My Father's Dragon.
Is My Father's Dragon worth watching, or is it just you put it at the bottom of the list? Is it not very good?
I think it's more bottom of the list by default, really. Like, I think it is the weakest of films. It's one that definitely feels more aimed towards a younger audience. They can like definitely feel this one as like My Father's Dragon as the bedtime story vibe to it. But it's still got incredible animation and some actually really good voice acting throughout that film. I think in My Father's Dragon, Ian McShane's a real highlight in that one.
Oh, I need to watch it then.
Okay.
I didn't realize Ian McShane was in it.
Yeah.
And I've worked out where I may have recognised Fiona Flanagan's voice from. She's in The Others. She's one of the people in The Others. A film that I saw where it was going immediately. It pissed off my wife immediately. Good. So in terms of my ranking, I don't really know what I would do because my other problem with these films is they don't tend to stick with me. So we talked about The Breadwinner on a podcast on the Glamcast.
Yeah.
I can't remember anything about that film. It's
Yeah.
completely fallen out of my head. I'm sorry. And like I've watched Wolfwalkers for the Oscars that year, reviewed The Secret of Kells. None of them have really stuck with me. And I feel like that's me. That's my fault. For not paying enough attention or not going back and watching them again. I don't know. Maybe I will go back and revisit some of them. I mean, Wolfwalkers is on Apple. I'll go down and watch it now.
Yeah.
The Secret of Kells is probably somewhere. My Father's Dragon's on Netflix. Like I could stay sat down here and watch them. Who knows? Maybe I will. But as for Song of the Sea, I would recommend it. I do think it's not the usual kind of film we talk about here. It's not like a bunch of sharks eating people.
I mean, all the secrets in this one are helpful in this one.
Yes, which we're not used to. We love sharks. We love sea creatures on this podcast. They are poorly portrayed as being killers and blights upon humanity when they are not. They are wonderful creatures. But it is fun when they eat people. And that doesn't happen in this film. So this is a different kind of film than we're used to talking about, as you can probably tell by that I'm not used to talking about it. My main note we haven't covered yet is nettle tea and gooseberry buns, which sounds disgusting. That's what the granny serves.
That it feels like something you'd get in the war when there's nothing else to have.
Yes, absolutely. It feels like I would rather eat nothing than consume nettle teas, regardless of how good it is for the voice. Great. So I think that'll do it for talking. I have a little list though, something we always do on this show, of how is Song of the Sea similar to Deep Blue Sea. Not a long list, short list. Sea in the title is amongst the list. There's an ill parent. There are sea creatures that they go swimming with them. There's a birthday party. Granny has a pet bird. There's a secluded living and working area. There is a silent character. In this case, it's Saoirse. In Deep Blue Sea, it is, of course, Ronny Cox. There's a secret key. They consult a map at some point. There's a scene in the rain. That's about as best as I could do. There's not a lot of comparisons between Deep Blue Sea and Song of the Sea. They are very different films.
Yeah.
They just both happen to take place in and around water. But one last thing I have to do is how deep and how blue is this film? So, Tony, you've seen it now. You obviously know that Deep Blue Sea is on average 14.5 meters deep and 31% blue. Do you think Song of the Sea is deeper and or bluer than Deep Blue Sea?
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably say potentially deeper because you've got, Saoirse going down to actually see a whale fully submerged in the water.
There is a blue whale. Yes. I did look up the swimming depths of blue whales. But that's only for a very short amount of time. She's down there, like, a lot of the film takes place on land. Most of the film takes place on land. Or if they aren't in the sea, it's like on the sea surface for a lot of it. So they're not actually that deep for very long. But yeah, she has this brief swimming session near the start. And then a few bits here and there. And then when Ben is with the hair guy, I would refuse to learn his name. They are like in some underground cavern. So it counts that as being underground for a little bit. But as it's mostly up on land, they're only the average depth worked out being just 1 meter deep. So not very deep at all. But blueness, it's 1% bluer than Deep Blue Sea. It's 32% blue. This is quite a blue film. It's quite a blue film. It's anytime they go underwater, it's like 100% blue. And there's lots of sky. And no scene, I think, is ever 0% blue because you always have Connor's eyes and trousers, which are both blue. It's not Connor, Ben's eyes and trousers, which are both blue. And the hair guy scene, the storyteller scene, is almost entirely blue. When he tells his story, in like flashback, it's completely blue screen. There's like blue tinted night scenes. And the credits, bless them, credits are blue.
Yeah, or even like I've got in the cover art for the Carterton Irish Folklore trilogy, like they've color coded each of the films, and Song of the Sea is color coded blue.
That makes sense. I'm guessing Secret of Kells green.
Yeah.
And Wolfwalkers is more like a browny orange.
Yeah,
okay.
Orange, but
good. So as all films that are trying to be deep and blue should do, blue credits, and the credits are also underwater, so that counts to the depth. Because normally at that point, like, if you just cut to a black screen, I'll just stop tracking the credits and finish those bits there, because it's the credits take place in some ethereal non-world. It's in the void. There's no depth to the void. there's implied depth, so it counts. But it ends up being 32% blue, which means that this film is our 22nd least deep film. I need to work out a better way of saying that. It's deeper than Jaws 2, but less deep than Born American. Which is a weird. Hang on, Born American's like an underground prison. That makes sense. Okay. I was like, how is Born American like deep? That's not deep at all, but it's underground. And blueness, it is our 20th bluest film. It is bluer than Deep Blue Sea, less blue than Empire of the Sharks, which we just talked about 2 weeks ago, 2 shows ago. Great. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Tony. What have you got to plug? Where can the listeners find you?
So yeah, for my plugs, my main stuff, for my actual reviews and for modern current releases, you can find my stuff over at cruisereviews.wordpress.com. And then for the Wicker Man podcast, that's being released weekly, and you can find that on everywhere good podcasts are available.
Outstanding. Yes, as I say, I've been a guest on there already. Look out for Mark on there in the future, and I'm sure some of our other past guests might crop up along the way because we tend to pick from similar pools of people, I'm sure. We all have the same friends. And when this episode comes out, when's this episode coming out? It's coming out in June. So yes, when this comes out, we will not have finished Con Air the podcast. We will soon have finished Con Air the podcast. So you can go and listen to Mark and I over on Con Air the podcast, going through Con Air scene by scene. Time recording, we only have a few chapters left. We're nearly done. Almost landed our plane, almost crashed into Vegas. So you can go and find us there, and you can find me over at lifeversusfilm.com, occasionally doing writing, very occasionally, like once a year, and hosting Lampardy over on the Lamcast, Movie Trivia, normally once a month. This year's a bit up in the air. But Tony has sending questions for that one. Thank you for all of those, Tony. And you can, as always, hear everything Mark does over at Movies, Films and Flicks. He has a lot of fun, interesting, and exciting things going on there. A lot of Mark's breaking some new ground. He's making some headways over at Movies, Films and Flicks. But as for Song of the Sea, thank you once again to my guest Tony Kogan.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I have been Jake Lewitt, and I'll deep blue see you again soon.